Welcome to the ReachX podcast. Today we are with Simona Reuter. She's a financial communication and investor relations expert with extensive experience in finance and the financial markets for well over 20 years. Simona, welcome to the podcast. Let me just jump straight into your first question, which would be, to give our readers a flavor, why is investor relations, the sphere of investor relations, so crucial for companies?
Hello, Gaurav, and first of all, thanks for having me here today. Well, I think investor relation is a two-way communication process which involves giving the market an accurate picture of the company's performance and prospects and gaining an important feedback from the market to assist with delivering the company's strategy. So, if a company investor relation program is successful, this should result in a fair market valuation for the company and a reasonable level of liquidity, of course, for the stock. But therefore, in my view, which is the role of investor relation officer, which best ensure that investor relation program is successful? And the ultimate role of an investor relation, of course, is to create a fair market value, which is when a current stock market price reflects the value of a company. But what is the fair market value? Because of course we know there are so many external factors that may affect such a value. And so as strange as it may sound, share price performance is not always a measure of the investor relation activity. So once again, what we have to do as an investor relation officer? The answer is to elaborate an IR program. And in my view, of my experience, an effective investor relation program is now a critical part of any major company's interface with its investors and also with its stakeholders. How a company presents itself through a robust equity story and a well-perceived corporate website is more and more crucial. So companies must develop an articulate, strong story that clearly explains why investors should believe in the company. And today, investors place a renewed emphasis on a company's proven ability to deliver solid performance and to focus on a company's track record is key. And we don't have to forget, of course, that in the current climate where investors have been cautious about the 2008-2009 crisis, companies can differentiate themselves by demonstrating consistent revenue generation and profitability. So, of course, the value proposition on ways is to try to tell a unique story that convinces the market about who we are, what we do, where we want to go, and briefly draw down a robust investment proposition, because any company has to highlight specifically what is unique, especially compared to competitors.
Sure. In a past life, you've been an auditor before you entered the IR space. You've had decades of experience, and we know that you love having a dialogue with investors and with companies alike. So, can you elaborate on this, and how does the IR community can serve as a bridge between investors and companies?
Yes, Gary, you're right. Well, I'm quite convinced that meet investors and maintain a dialogue with existing shareholders to maximize companies' own value is crucial. This may sound just like a slogan, but I really believe that to address key investors and key decision makers who understand the company in the right way is what we have to do on a daily basis. So I think we need to make sure that the IR advisor, like me, for instance, or corporate brokers, have to target the right investors. But who are the right investors for a specific company? Or the potential investors. Of course, those who are interested in the stock, familiar with the sector, with the competitors, for instance, the size also is important, and ultimately can invest in a specific region. Well, that's easy to say, but of course, it's not that easy always to find them. But when an investor is really interested in a story, my experience is that they really can move and join you even in a roadshow or in events or conferences. So to go on a little bit more on this matter, I think investor targeting is one of the most important among IR and corporate access provider services. To seek the potential investor with accuracy becomes more and more a key success factor of the IR strategy. If I can elaborate just a little bit more about the importance on roadshows, for instance, which provide a remarkable marketing opportunity to attract investors, because as such is one of the most important steps by a company who is planning to issue securities through an IPO or a capital increase, but also afterwards along its new life as a listed company. I think companies need to impress institutional investors, so at least a few of them, and sometimes even just one more if it's significant, is willing to invest. And some large investors, but also small investors like hedge funds or family offices, will not put the money in a company without having the opportunity to meet face-to-face the top managers. So we are convinced that roadshows may really provide that opportunity. And you can give not verbal cues about the person, the top management, and the investor can really understand if ultimately can trust that person.
Sure. This leads us nicely to our next question. You, of course, mentioned the size of a company, and of course, you've been working both large and small caps. So, from your professional seat, how you view the world, what's the major difference between the various sizes of companies when it comes to IR?
Well, that's right. I've been in charge for several years of the IR office of a large cap, but more recently, I've been working a lot with the small medium caps. I think, first of all, that we can't deny that small companies are a key element of an efficient capital market, as to provide the diversity for balanced capital allocation. Also, especially if they one day become large caps. But however, with limited IR resources, it is not easy and certainly very challenging sometimes to work for a small, medium-sized company. So if you have an investment case right and you are a small company, what you can do? Well, my experience tells me that smaller companies do need to explain even more why investors should invest in their business and not in others. So again, like I said before, the investment case becomes crucial, even more for small caps or AIM-listed companies. Well, we all notice that with the changes in the market environment taking place under MiFID II, corporates and investor relation officers for smaller listed companies have even more than before a great responsibility to ensure a clear understanding of the business. So consequently, the investment case has to be used as a clear pitch. Reason why corporates are choosing to put their investment cases online more and more. And in my experience, when I start a new project, I notice quite often that documents performed by a company maybe are not consistent, maybe because they are made by different offices or simply not updated. So one of the first activity I run is to review the equity story. And in an equity story, something that you should never forget to add, in my view, is, for instance, providing at least 5 reasons why someone has to invest in your story. So to create a robust investment opportunity. Well, ultimately, I think it is important an investment case engages that investors drive them to further information. So if you share your equity story with your investors and ask them afterwards what they think about it, then this can start create their interest. They can elaborate on this. They can do further analysis. And at the end, they may start to really think about investing in the company.
Sure, and finally, again, you cannot divorce the IR world from corporate crises whenever they emerge. So I'm sure you must have faced a few situations in your long illustrious career. So what do you think about the art of crisis management versus the IR community?
Well, you're right. It has happened to me more than once to be involved and have to react to crises. Well, nobody likes crises, so we cannot deny that they happen. And even if an healthy organization evaluates the cost of preparing a crisis communication plan, it's always tempting to say, well, it's not going to happen to us. But every organization is vulnerable to crisis. This is what we know by now. And for some reason, probably they tend to happen always when the company is less prepared, maybe during summer breaks or Christmas holidays. And just to mention to you, as an example, the unfortunate tragic events occurred last year in August in Italy related to the listed blue chip Atlantia. Look at the stock price performance now. This large cap is almost back to its market cap of approximately 19 billion euros now, recovering from a loss of some 6 billion in a couple of days last year. So again, what is relevant to point out here, because I'm not gonna go any deeper in this specific case, is that we would like to believe organizations worldwide are finally getting it about preparation, about on crisis, but still there's a lot of work to do. And while it takes a long time to build a strong reputation, it takes no time to tear it down. So building a reputation is more than just marketing and sales. Strategic communication is essential to build trust and respect. And so experience demonstrates that organizations often do not understand that in the absence of adequate internal and external communication, operational response can break down. The length of time required to bring full resolution to the issue is extended, and stakeholders will not know what is happening. So they start to quickly become confused, upset, and may negatively react. The organization will not be perceived as good, and in the worst case scenario, they can even consider criminally negligent. Just to conclude as a piece of advice, remember that all stakeholders, internal and external, are just as capable of misunderstanding information about the organization as the media. So it's the IR officer, along with the top management, responsibility to minimize the chance of this happening. Just for instance, responding to stakeholders very quickly, and do also some training to the main spokespersons. And probably I would always suggest to try your best to communicate with honesty and openness while acknowledging all the risks.
Sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks to you.
It's good to have you on, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, if you want to listen to further podcast or would you like further details, please go to reachx.co.